Happy New Year's. It's New Year's Day as we're filming this. So welcome back to Out of Spec Motoring, which means electric road trip time. This is my trusty base Model 3. I love telling people it's the base Model 3 because everyone is like so impressed by the technology, all the things they give you as standard features. And I'm like, it's the base model. Plus white seats. We did add white seats because you have to by law. It's way better that way, trust me.
It's not actually by law, just as a legal disclaimer, you know?
We have Jess behind the camera. Say hi.
Hello.
Who joined us on the way out to get here to Kansas City. That was its own separate road trip video at the very end of the year. Now we are returning. This is interesting because this is, well, again, the base Model 3. We've all seen how well this performs in the I-90 Surge. That was, of course, racing pretty much. Still within speed caps and things, but this is actually cooler temperatures. We're in winter. I mean, not quite dead of winter, but pretty cold. We're looking at probably close to freezing temperatures the whole way back today. So the way out here, 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That's really pretty impressive. About 275 watt hours per mile for those using the more granular system. And this car, I mean, that's better than we've seen with Lucid and a lot of other cars I've road tripped, and I've road tripped a ton at this point. So I'm really curious to see what will the efficiency do on the way back, because you have to look at it in a loop scenario to really understand an accurate reading. Because, you know, we had some tailwind on the way out here. Statistically, we're looking at probably some headwind on the way back, also climbing some elevation, and maybe even cooler temperatures and a bit more night driving, which of course is also colder. So that's one part of it. How will this car do in the winter? Another piece of this is FSD. We used FSD to get out here, touch the steering wheel like once. If you don't count parking lots, never touch the steering wheel, which is mind-blowing. We're in the new stack 13.2.2.1, which is the new stack as of this video. Of course, it is always changing and improving, but we are now doing, you know, highway, end-to-end, everything. You've got the hurry, standard, chill modes. We might be playing around with those a little bit to see how it works, but just letting the car go to every single charger and stop itself and park itself. So we'll be hitting some different chargers on the way back, and also some chargers not yet done. We're gonna be trying to see what IONNA has put in the ground in Kansas. We know they have Oakley and they have Abilene, which are upcoming locations in Q1 2025. Can't believe it's 2025, by the way. So we're gonna see how far along they've gotten. So without further ado, we're standing next to the best coffee shop in Kansas City. I know it says second best, but that's actually false advertising. It's phenomenal. Jess can agree. We just had a phenomenal breakfast burrito and coffee, and I think we're ready to hit the road. I want to thank Wolfbox for sponsoring today's video. As you may know, I love a clean car and a clean workspace and a clean house, and that is made even more possible with the Wolfbox Air Duster. Weighing only 0.66 pounds, it is light enough to hang around your wrist on its included strap, and it's very easy to reach anything, anywhere. And it has plenty of power, being able to move air at 45 meters per second from its turbofan, spinning it up to 150,000 RPM. And if that's too much power, you can dial it back with the other two fan speeds. Here at Out of Spec, we are of course car enthusiasts, so I plan on keeping this in my glove box and dusting my car every chance I think of it. But I can also use it around the house to clean off the infotainment, the floor. It comes with everything you need to handle your dusting projects, including 5 different attachments, 2 brushes to help clean it, a charging cable to charge the dual 3000 milliamp hour batteries. Don't mind me, I'm just gonna be using this thing basically everywhere. And you can too. So clear dust, debris, inflate inflatables, and so much more with the Wolfbox Air Duster. You'll find it linked down in the description below. And now you get back to the road trip. I'm gonna get back to dusting. So it has come to my attention through many helpful comments in the last video that I was a bit hasty with release notes, or lack thereof. See, Tesla had announced that coming soon in an update, it would have auto park at the destination. And then a huge update came out, bringing the FSD 13.2.2.1 or whatever. And so I just kind of assumed that was going to be in there, and I completely forgot, which is dumb, that Tesla doesn't always roll things out all together. And sometimes they say something's coming soon for a long time before it actually comes soon. So not soon. So I kind of rolled into the road trip thinking that was the case. But then we get to our first charging stop, as you saw in the last episode. If you didn't, go watch the last episode. And it parked itself at a supercharger. like pretty much perfectly. So that just reinforced to me the idea that that was indeed part of the update. It is very strange. As the day of the trip went on, of course, I realized sometimes it would park itself, sometimes it wouldn't. Weird, inconsistent behavior. And so it's not programmed not to, but it's also not programmed to do it all the time and like promise that. So I guess, yes, you guys are correct. I should have been thorough looking at the release notes. I apologize for that. And now I know, but watch the rest of this road trip with that thing in mind of me expecting it to park every time, and it does some of the times. All right, so we have done 1,118 miles kind of on the first trip. Not all that was on camera. We did some driving around here. 311 kilowatt hours, that equals an average of 278. We're going to remember that number. That's partially why I'm filming it, because I am now going to reset that number just to see how it varies going backwards. Reset, there we go. But then at the very end, I can add in the original numbers to find the overall average of the entire trip, which will be great. So setting off, we just put in home to see what the car is saying to do. It's putting in a lot of charging stops. Holy cow. Like over double the ones to get out here. And I think it's because it's trying to do a bunch of quick charges in theory. Let's see what it's saying here. All right, so I've got the 2 addresses for the IONNA chargers, which are in Abilene and then Oakley as we work our way west, and the final destination in Boulder, Colorado. So we will see how accurate this is. 5 charging stops. Looks like fairly short charges, which is nice, really easy off and on. We of course might manipulate that a little bit if we want like a dinner or better snack or something, and we'll see just how these charging spots look. I'm super curious. I was at the grand opening in Apex, North Carolina, so I have an idea of what they look like when they're done, so we'll see how close they are to that. So I guess we'll hit the road. Hi, Jess. We are off in our hands-free full self-driving adventure across Kansas. And yeah, we left about 20 minutes ago, but it was saying a total of an hour for the first charge. So that's one big difference. We did not leave with a full battery like we did on the way out because we left my house where I could charge to full. Here, there was no charging where we were staying. So we did kind of navigate that with a few extra supercharger stops and leaving this morning with 40% state of charge. So that kind of manipulates the trip a little bit, but still it only said something like 6 stops maybe, 2 charging stops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it just changed our first one. It was originally saying we'd stop before Topeka, and now we're stopping after. So maybe the car is even more efficient than we expected. Not really sure, but we'll just see. We'll keep monitoring it because it does update automatically based on the conditions and the efficiency, and we're not super efficient right now. So it is interesting that we extended to a further away charger. But FSD itself has been, like I said at the beginning, really, really phenomenal. I mean, your impressions as a passenger so far?
So good.
I mean, she also drove it a little, or was driven a little bit.
No, it's been really good. It has avoided so many random things in the road, construction, signage, things that just I feel like even I would kind of last minute freak out about, and so it's been really good. Yeah, a lot of weird, unique scenarios. Like it hasn't just been like giving it the best chance. I intentionally want to put it in hard positions and try to figure out what it is doing. So yeah, it's done weird single lane construction stuff, weird single lane roads where it's like people are supposed to take turns going down them. It does still do some weird quirky things. Most of the time the lane changes are brilliant, which is automatically lane changes. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I have no idea why you just made that lane change. I think too, a lot of last minute lane changes, like when you've got a right turn only and we're going straight, you know, it'll hang in the right turn only lane until the very last second and then get over, which is fine when you're driving in Kansas City and there's no one around. but in a busier city, I'm curious how that would work.
Right. Yeah, I need to do some more testing in crazier environments. But otherwise, yeah, so relaxing. Such an easy way to road trip. Our state charger arrival, by the way, just went down to 4% instead of 5%. So I really think it might reroute us back to the original charger. I'm not really sure. Either way, we're going to see how it does on the highway going back. We'll check the weather. It did say 25 degrees on arrival, which is the nice new weather feature on arrival in the route planner. And it was pretty accurate coming out here. Really, really, after the first charger stint where it kept dropping percentage as to what it would think we would arrive with, it seemed like it finally figured it out. So we'll see if that happens on the way back as well. And otherwise, we'll just let it do its thing. I mean, it does sometimes get close to semi-trucks as we pass them. That's annoying. There's no reason why it doesn't just scooch over to the other side of the lane, but instead it almost seems to like hug the semi-truck, which is slightly terrifying.
Yeah.
But I've been ready to take over, but I haven't had to yet. Okay, we are exiting to the first charging stop. So like I said in the last clip, it actually changed itself to go to Topeka, so extend a little further. But that was a 150, whereas this is a 250. This is a V3, that was a V2. I don't know why it auto changed the navigation to a V2. By me manually telling it to go to this V3, I saved 15 minutes off the ETA. So I have no idea why the route planner does that. This is supposedly the new version of the route planner, and it still does weird, like I can outdo it with my optimization. You would think the computer would have the brains to do that. Anyways, we have been enjoying some wicked soundtrack, and we are pulling in with 391 watt hours per mile as the efficiency, which is really pretty rough. Now this charger, last time, it didn't know where to find it. Like, we went to this charger on the way out here, and it got stuck right here. But this time it looks like it's actually backing in itself. Maybe. You're so close, dude. It's right there. We've arrived with 9% state of charge. The original estimate for this location was 12, so it's not too far off. But yeah, the efficiency, that's really, really pretty bad. It is, again, 30-ish degrees. It started with 28, now we're up to 37. And that's a little over 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, way worse than the 3 point something. So I will manually tell it to back up because it got close, but just didn't know how to get that last few feet. That's really interesting. So maybe they haven't fully tested out this feature because it's really been mostly, I'd say hit and miss, but it's actually been mostly miss. That's okay. Either way, not touching the steering wheel until it gets to the starting stop is really impressive. So I'll get it plugged in, we'll see what speeds we rip, but that's, yeah, we're looking at crosswind and cold weather to really hurt our efficiency. All right, plugging in to, yes, a V3. For those who don't know, you can tell it's V3 by the skinny handle and no silver collar right here. Otherwise it'd be a V2 like the one it tried to take us to for no conceivable reason. We had been preconditioning basically that entire drive, so I'm curious to see if we will hit peak speeds, and I think we will because it did eventually stop preconditioning and then it started again. So we should be close to optimal temperature. Not entirely positive, but what we can always do is hop in here to software, hold long tap on that, type service, which I can't spell. That will take us into service mode. There we go, ramping up past 200 kilowatts and not quite maximum speeds. But let's see temperatures here. So we're looking at between 38 and 47 degrees Celsius on the battery. I think it could have been okay a bit warmer, but it is, there we go, peak speeds right about 250 kilowatts. So not too bad. Now that we've manually, here I guess I'll exit service mode. Now that we've manually added this charging stop, looking ahead, we should see a bit further. Yeah, so the next stop will actually be checking out the IONNA here in Abilene. Then we'll have a stop here in Salina, which is, see, that's a V2. I was hoping to avoid V2s. I guess if I show all chargers here, what is this? These are V3s. So let's manually add this now. Change the trip around. So Abilene is first. I also wish this was smarter. Like, you kind of figured, in theory, you figured with like AI or whatever that I would be going west. So why would I have those stops mixed around? I don't know. I could see that argument either way, I guess. But I've just added our charging time a little bit higher here. But that's okay because we just want to get to Salina so we can get the, I think, V3s. Let's see if it's smart enough to do that. I think we'll do a little bit of a deeper charge here to skip Salina because I'd rather not hit that for 12 minutes on a V2 if we can do arguably close to the same speeds here in a V3. Really whatever I can to skip all the V2s because I also don't want to run the risk of shared power with a New Year's Day that is, you know, road tripped fairly heavily by a lot of people. All right, nice quick 20-minute stop to go from about 9 to 63%. Definitely no EGMP charging curve. That's my one complaint. Oh, oops. My one complaint with this car. Doesn't charge amazingly, but doesn't charge bad either. So, for anyone curious, that charging stop was $16.15. That was for about 43 kilowatt hours of juice. So next stop is actually Abilene. I don't know why I told it to stop here because that's IONNA, and for some reason it just decided to skip the V3 supercharger and try to take me to another V2 down the way. I don't really understand why. We do have an EV9 pulling in here to these chargers, which is pretty cool. I've never seen anyone use those. In fact, there were gas cars blocking them a second ago. But we're gonna continue on to Abilene and see what this whole IONNA situation looks like. So over there we can see the IONNA station that is currently in progress. We'll see if we can swing by on the way back. But over here we are heading across the highway to the Tesla superchargers. So coming in at 19%. I don't know why it told us to charge up to get here at 19% unless it expected us to be less efficient. 350 watt hours per mile on this stint, which is just about 2.9, just a hair under 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So way better than our first stint of 400 watt hours per mile, but definitely worse than our initial trip out here. But yeah, pulling up, it's been preconditioning most of this drive, so it is still cold outside, but maybe because our battery is warmer, that's why our efficiency was up a bit. But I can definitely feel crosswind. Even though I'm not even holding the steering wheel when I'm driving, I can feel the car being thrown around just a little bit. So it's not getting in as low as I would have liked, which is a bummer. We could have left the last charger 5 minutes earlier. Either way, side note, there's a gas station with a tractor just pulling up. Welcome to Kansas, folks. Love that. But we're gonna plug in here, and curious how much time it says to charge here. Probably not that long of a time. And we'll see if it'll find the charger. I'm once again not feeling hopeful because I think, yeah, this is the one at the Country Mart. So we can do exactly the same thing as last time and see if it knows where to go. Because we did this exact stop on the way out here. And, oh.
No.
Nope. I don't know why. The car has no idea where the chargers are, which are way over here. So that didn't quite work, but it's okay. We'll plug in, see what we get. So arrived at 19% at precisely 1 o'clock p.m. local time. Plugging right in. We should see good speeds. Maybe their car also tried to take them over here for no reason. But we are plugged in, ramping right up. There's no reason we shouldn't see peak speeds here, so I'm not even gonna poke around to that. But fans are ripping, and what's it saying? I mean, it's only 2 minutes to our next stop, but then we still have, okay, 15-minute charging here, and then we stop across the highway, check out IONNA really quick, and then we'd poke all the way down to Hayes, which is another hour and a half down the road. So not too far in between these stops, and then 3 more after that. All short, wow, really short stops. So we might take a longer one with a food stop and see where we can go from there. All right, we have been charging for 18 minutes. Pretty much says 1 minute raining, but we've got 9% arrival, which has been pretty conservative. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug. That is a little over 35 kilowatt hours delivered, partially because we had climate running the whole time, just using that fancy YouTube app to stream an MKBHD video. Works perfectly well. So if we continue on trip, says 10% arrival now. Plenty of time. So I don't know why it won't let me continue yet, but checking on that charging stop, $12.70 going from 19 to 64. So that's a net of what is that, 45% charged? Yep. So yeah, guess we're done here, and we'll keep going across the highway. Notably, this charging area where it tried to take us and not correctly park itself, because it just literally won't. There's a grocery store right over there with not really any good bathrooms. So as a charging stop review, meh, I guess. There's no restrooms that are easily accessible, no windshield cleaning stuff, no trash cans. It is frustrating how, even though we praise Tesla Supercharger Network so much, it still is lacking a lot of things. So that partially leads us to our next quick stop here. Really quick nap review. How's the car for napping? Comfort.
Okay, I don't like the headrest. I don't like that it's not adjustable. I think that really frustrates me, because when you put the seat back, you kind of want the headrest to not have this slightly forward angle to it, and so that really bothers me.
Yeah. Otherwise, pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spent a long time in these seats recently.
The seats are so comfortable, though. I will say,
Yeah.
like, zero sciatica, back pain, whatever acting up. Like, it just feels really comfortable.
Yeah. So we are hopping across the highway now before the next stint of napping or driving to IONNA. Like I said earlier, I was at the IONNA launch out in Apex, North Carolina. It was like a soft launch, and then they kind of officially opened to the public last Friday, so the Friday before New Year's, in North Carolina, Scranton, Pennsylvania, and maybe 2 other places. They're rolling out a bunch more now, so we can kind of get a look and see how this is here. It looks like IONNA coming soon. Wagon wheel situation, chuck wagon.
Just pulling in.
This is pretty sweet. Oh, so the chuck wagon's coming soon as well. So maybe I'll pull out or step out and get a quick video clip, because I'm definitely very curious. So the chuck wagon's coming soon. You see the IONNA Rechargery sign says coming soon, and they've got 5 dispensers in the ground, and they're currently working on getting them all wired up. And then, yeah, the chuck wagon looks like a cool restaurant with a drive-through, which is nice. So you can actually drive through and get your food and then sit at the charger, hopefully for a short stop. But they're getting it all wired up right now. It looks like very similar to what we saw in Apex, North Carolina, which was 5 total chargers, 3 CCS pairs, 2 NACS pairs, so 10 total at a time, because these chargers all split power between the 2 of them. So it looks like a really cool spot. Looks very similar to Apex, but also unique in its own Kansas way. I mean, the Chuck Wagon feels like such a Kansas restaurant, and that's what IONNA's trying to do, kind of match the local locations. So really curious to see how the other IONNA location looks when we find that here in a couple hours over in Oakley. Okay, yet another fail of the route planner. Originally it was routing us to Hayes, which is a V2. I don't know why it chose that, but when I hit reroute, then it corrected itself to a V3, but now we're getting there with a higher state of charge, which means once again we could have left earlier. It is crazy how this updated route planner is still subpar to my manual. Well, in this case, it also sometimes automatically chooses correctly. So I wonder if these are... Nope, it still has us stopping in Goodland, which makes no sense. So yeah, we'll just try to skip Goodland because we need to check out Limon anyways, which will be the last stop. So one more quick stop in Russell. Or I guess we could see what has better food, Russell or Hayes. And then this is where the next IONNA preview location is, and we'll see how that looks. We'll see which one looks closer, Oakley or Abilene. We had to go back across the highway just to find a gas station with actual amenities. I guess, Jess, what do you look for in a stop? What would you look for in a stop? Because a lot of charging stops have not the things people want, like a Walmart parking lot.
Well, okay, so your bathroom is, I feel like, a non-negotiable. Like, every stop, you've got to have a bathroom. You've got to have, like, trash. Well, I guess trash cans kind of come with bathroom territory.
They should, in theory. Yeah.
And then for me, it's got to have at least one fast food option, I think. One snack option.
Yeah.
Outside of the gas station.
Yeah, in theory, there'd be some food nearby a restroom. But it is crazy how some of these charging stops that are not Teslas are in, like, Walmart parking lots. It's like, who wants to go to a Walmart parking lot when you're on a road trip? They're usually off the highway a bit annoyingly. So, to Tesla's credit, they do pretty good at well-placed charging stops, really close to your route proximity. But in the case of the one we were just at, like in a grocery store parking lot, so not much better or different than Walmart, and that grocery store doesn't even have easily accessible bathrooms. I think they do have one. I've actually maybe found it once. I don't know. It's just weird. It's not ideal experience. It feels like the grocery store is like annoyed that you're like using their bathroom if you're not a customer, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm just trying to charge my car and get on with my life. But fortunately, a nice gas station right across the road. But that's where IONNA coming in with their new charging station will really help that out, because they have that cool Chuck Wagon looking restaurant coming soon, and bathrooms on site, and a 24/7 lounge type of thing. So that'll be really cool for people on the long road trips, especially for those cars who don't charge very well and need longer stops. That gives them a nice place to just chill out. So now we have a little over an hour to the next stop. Nap time for you, not me. Good night. Okay, well, it's pulling into where it thinks the chargers are, and it's behind an Applebee's. I do remember that, but I'm not feeling super confident in its ability to always find the chargers. Okay, there they are. Shirley car, you would understand. But, oh geez. Nope, it's giving up. And because these are V2 superchargers, we will be using the, for lack of a better term, urinal logic. So you don't park next to someone else's car because you share power. And you typically in pairs. Well, I have seen the alternative, but looks like this person's unplugging anyways, so we'll just plug in here and hope no one else comes and steals precious power. But we're arriving at 9%, 3:08 p.m. and we don't need a ton of juice, which is good because again, this is slower charge. That drive was 360 watt-hours per mile, so just a hair under 2.8 miles per kilowatt-hour. Once again, not super efficient. We took a stop at McDonald's because there's not much around here. And you didn't want Wendy's.
No. There's only one fast food option, and it's McDonald's. Don't come for me in the comments, 'cause I don't work here.
So, bit windy. Yeah, that's what cold temperatures and 10-mile-an-hour head/crosswind, it's like a diagonal headwind, will do to this, and high speed, always being at 80 or above miles an hour. So we should see a ramp up. I do have trust issues sometimes with V2 superchargers because I've had them just really not do well. So we'll make sure we get the 150 kilowatt peak, which we should hold to at least 35%. And we may not need that much more than that. But we'll find out here. It's saying 30 minutes remaining to continue trip. So this is definitely a longer stop, but that's okay. That's why we have food to help spend the time, I guess. But yeah, ramping up to just about full power. It was preconditioning. I don't know why it's not 150 kilowatts right now, but maybe it'll ramp up to that. But yeah, we shouldn't be load sharing with anyone, so all good. Okay, nice deep 48 kilowatt hours charged, and we had, let's see, 18 bucks, because I think we're in Hayes. Yeah, that's right. So unplugging. Glad we're the only ones here, because it really sucks if you have a full station of V2s. Power sharing is really rough at that point. But that was, yeah, I think that tells you. Yeah, okay, 17 bucks at that one because of a fairly deeper charge. Next up should be a really quick swing by on the IONNA and Oakley, or what will be the IONNA. And then we have charging stop in Oakley, and hopefully just skipping all the way over to Limon. And there is the Rivian chargers right there, and then there's Electrify America and the Walmart over there. So every single different car has charging options at Hayes, Kansas. All right, well, it looks like they are much further away from having this site done. We are now in Oakley, I guess. There is the sign. It's really pretty windy out here. I apologize for any noise, but that's some high voltage cabling that I'm guessing will be put here, which is where you'll see chargers. So I don't know if they're just piggybacking off of this situation, which is fine. It's a nice gas station, but there's really not much else around here. So maybe this is really early. Maybe they're going to build another building out here or have more amenities coming, but otherwise they're piggybacking on this, which is, hey, it works. Okay, we are exited in wherever we are. Oakley. I don't even know. Sunset is approaching, which is super awesome. Still pretty cold, barely above 40 degrees, and 10 mile an hour-ish headwind. So, and yeah, 80 to 85 miles an hour. A lot of variables that are causing us slow charging times. Slow, worse efficiency. Almost 400 watt hours per mile since charging. And this current drive actually 417 watt hours per mile, so really rough. But yeah, that's winter road tripping for you. And I guess we're still better off than some of these legacy cars like this Model 3 here. But let's see if this actually will reverse in. It is fun to test this on the same charger we've already been to. We were at this charger a couple days ago on the way out here. So now I can see if it picks the same stall and does it incorrectly again. It actually looks like it's doing it. Will we finally get a flawless stop and charge situation? Well, it's not really in the lines very well, but the chargers are like not correctly lined up with the spaces. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it. No one's here. This is hilarious. So, good enough, I guess. So yeah, I think we're gonna charge here. It's debatable exactly how much, but I'll get it plugged in and we'll see how far we go. Oh, holy wind. Okay, let's assess our parking job. Not the worst. You can see the lines really don't line up with the car. You can see the lines really don't line up with the charger, so it's not actually my fault. The car did okay, and maybe it's prioritizing the charger, but hey, it finally did it correctly. Love it. Love to see it. So we arrived here with 24%, which was higher than we'd like to. So we could have left the last charger actually like 5, maybe even more than 5 minutes earlier. But again, the route planner just was not correctly optimizing, which is just weird. I don't know why it's so off. And why I can get so many better results by doing it manually, I guess. So if I force Limon to be a stop, maybe, I'm trying to think if there's a way to not stop in Goodland. I mean, we can, but it'd be cool if we could just skip and go straight to Limon, which is really not that far away.
Extra 10 minutes.
We'll just keep charging extra. Yeah, we'll see. Like, what if I remove charging stops? In theory, this will give us a negative percentage. 35-minute charge. So that's close to a wash with also stopping in Goodland. So it's 166 miles. We can surely do that, even though the temperatures and conditions are not great. So we'll see if this ever loads with the percentage we need to leave here by its estimation. And yeah, otherwise this will be a nice slightly deeper stop, and then Limon won't be too bad, and we'll just check on a couple chargers around there for Kyle's and Andreas's video, which is checking all the chargers in Colorado. All right, bit of a deeper charge for some Bob's Burgers and just to skip excessive charge stopping. We could have optimized a tiny bit better maybe if we did want to stop in whatever was over here, but that was a V2 with slower speed, so I figured may as well just set the V3 for a bit longer. Now it's saying a 5% arrival in Limon, now 6%, so that's a good buffer because it's actually been very accurate for the last few stops. It was just this morning's first one, and I guess the first one when we went out here where it was actually kind of off, so I guess it's kind of figured itself out as we went along. But yeah, headwind, cold temperatures, high speeds. It's crazy that 166 miles will take over 80% of the battery on this impressively efficient rear-wheel drive long-range base Model 3. So we will unplug. We've dropped all the way down to 37 kilowatts, but got to see a nice sunset over the Kansas horizon as we approach Colorado. This is our last stop in Kansas. And then for anyone curious, of course, we have $17.84 for a deep charging session. Really pretty cheap on the Tesla network. And as usual, finally, now that it's parked itself, I will let it take us out of here. Amazing. How is that not like a fire hazard? That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Bye, Sonic. It was romantic watching a Sonic sunset. You know? Okay, stopped off really quick in the, I guess, eastern edge of Limon, where these charge points used to exist, and now they're just completely offline. PlugShare has reported that they are under repair, and I guess that's the case because they're just like abandoned. They're acting like a ghost town situation. Maybe they're being replaced. I'm not really sure, but they're high on situations. Charge point, I don't know if these are the CP250s, I forget, but they are, you know, shared units, and a very interesting layout and just kind of a sketchy location. I don't know, it doesn't feel super great around here, so we're going to go back to the Tesla chargers, which are a much better experience. Okay, now we are pulling into the Limon Tesla supercharger, which, unlike the charge points we were just at, is functional, and the car knows it is. That's the scary thing, is like, you know, lots of other cars that are non-Teslas have all these chargers in their nav, which is great, but don't always know when they're not working. So I'm curious if every other company knows that charge point is currently broken. The other day we came through here, this was our first stop, and it pulled into a, It pulled into a V2 supercharger all by itself. Today, it's not even trying to pull into anything. No one's here, but FSD just gave up. Last week it pulled into one of these, and those could not give us full power, so it's hilarious that it did. But we are arriving here with 7%, which is pretty much right on the money as what it's originally stated we would get here with, which is pretty cool. So we'll plug in. We don't need that much juice, and it's a good stop. We got Arby's, we got a decent gas station over there, and Jess is probably sweating that we're at the single-digit percentile battery. All right, plugging in. So that was a also pretty inefficient stretch. Partially, well, again, same conditions as always. We are now well below freezing, and it was 375 watt hours per mile, which is under 200 or under 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. I can't even talk anymore. So yes, very inefficient, but this is our last charging stop of the trip. I will be checking on 2 more chargers for our operation, check out all the DC fast chargers in Colorado. And I figured may as well do it while I'm on this stretch of I-70 heading back towards Denver. So, Limon, pretty great. Okay, another 45 kilowatt hour charging session. We'll get this unplugged. Got up to 64%. That's plenty to get back to Boulder and to my house. Ready to wrap this all up. And that final session was 1867. Wow. So I wonder if charging is a bit more expensive at this spot. Well, 38 cents per kilowatt hour, that's pretty normal. projects on this channel. But it was a lot of things I was looking forward to see how this car did as the base Model 3 we've all known and loved from other things, to see how really capable it was, especially given winter conditions. And that was a big eye-opening aspect of it. I mean, I'll get into the data after this clip, but like, just overall, way less efficient going the other direction.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to get your thoughts, Jess, as your first EV road trip.
Okay, so the charging stops was not as bad as I thought. And I want to address that first because I think that's the first thing that a lot of people talk about, right? When they're thinking about road tripping in an EV, they talk about how gas stops are a lot quicker. But I feel like a lot of times, by the time we got food, used the bathroom, kind of stretched our legs, like got things together, like the charge is almost done anyway.
Yeah.
There were maybe only 2 times where we really stopped for a deeper charge where that didn't happen, and that was really our choice.
And that was mostly, well, especially on the way back, where it was less efficient. We needed more juice to go the same distance. Headwind, cold, everything. And then it was like, well, you were like, wait, Hulu? So we just watched TV.
And it was great. And the time flew by, and it really, at the end of the day, it didn't feel like we're arriving at our destination like significantly later than we would have if it had been a gas car. It still feels pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of within an hour of what the gas car would have portrayed. I mean, I've done this specific drive so many times, both gas and electric. And this was the closest I've had to a gas car time. Because I've taken other electric cars that were either older Teslas with smaller batteries, or the VinFast, which is terrible charging, and just other vehicles where it was a bit more of a hassle. And the VinFast had, of course, non-Tesla chargers, which was kind of hit and miss with how convenient or good those were. But as Tesla's charging, I mean, you plug this thing in, super easy.
Yeah, and it's super easy. And then I think also the FSD is great. Like if I ever owned a Tesla, I would definitely invest in the FSD option. Obviously, a lot of this road trip was also checking the ability to drive right up to the charger, which it failed, but I don't think that is a deal breaker.
No, not at all.
And so I think FSD performed really well. There were a ton of obstacles coming back into Denver. There was a little more traffic. People drive a little faster. And it navigated, you know, we're in that hurry mode, so it navigated passing people the way that I would say the average Colorado driver would do.
Passing on the right, that it was always really good at getting over when there was someone stopped in the shoulder. It still nudges weirdly close to semi sometimes, or just doesn't nudge away from them enough.
There was one time it did nudge away. I do want to give it credit.
Okay.
There was one time where it did nudge away, and I clocked that because I was surprised.
Yeah.
So 1 out of 50 times it moved over.
Right. We still never had to interfere, but there were some times where I was like, it's kind of doing weird, and sometimes I'll just chill in the left lane. I don't know why. It would do a random lane change for no reason that we could understand.
Yeah. And then I would say comfort, it is like a 10 out of 10. Maybe a 9 out of 10 because the damn headrests don't adjust. But otherwise, the seat is perfect. I have like no aches or pains after sitting for 9 hours. Yeah. I feel great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, phenomenal road tripper. I knew it would be, but I was really excited to actually do this road trip. I mean, Andreas has been road tripping his Model 3 all over the place. He has 15,000 miles on it by now, which is crazy. And yeah, this thing is, I mean, like you said, FSD is so incredible. I've had some other people also experience it. And that's the general unanimous decision from EV enthusiasts, but also just the average person alike. Totally blows their mind.
Yeah, and I will say one more thing. I think thinking of, again, with the time it takes to do the charges, right, versus a gas car, I would take the longer drive with the FSD
Yeah.
over a slightly shorter drive with the gas car.
Yeah, I agree. As the person who's mostly been, I mean, you took some driving here and there, but I was mostly me sitting here, but it didn't really change anything because we're both just sitting here.
Yeah.
I just happen to have a steering wheel right in front of me that's rotating by itself. But it's doing all the lane changes, everything completely normal. So it is very freeing. I mean, I can't just do whatever I want. The car is still watching me, the camera's still watching me, but it's very easy for me to just let it do its thing and enjoy the ride. And I'm not tired. Like, I'm not fatigued from driving and constantly changing lanes and everything. So thanks for your thoughts. Looking forward to next time. Okay, and I just got home and here we are. That's let's see, what are we looking at? 355 watt hours per mile for the entirety of the return trip, which is, yeah, way worse than the 275 we averaged on the way out there, but actually not horrible given that it's below freezing, headwinds, high speed. That's actually not too bad all said and done. It is under 3 miles per kilowatt hour, but you know, uphill winter, that's pretty normal. The reverse is actually pretty good too. 275 watt hours per mile, still in cold conditions, just, you know, with a little bit of a tailwind instead of the headwind. So conditions matter a lot. Not everyone thinks that way, especially coming from the gas car environment, the gas car world. So pretty interesting to see all this happening with the EV. And yeah, you know, our range test is a great apples to apples comparison with everything, but it really tells you just how much weather can affect range as well as everything else. This car that did 386 miles in our range test today could have done just over 200 with the worst conditions, the worst stretch that I had with, you know, almost 400 watt hours per mile. So very, very fascinating to see that just because they state one specific range when they're selling a car doesn't mean that much unless you have very specific circumstances. All right, I'm back. It's now a few days later. I've had some time to analyze the data, and it's pretty fascinating if you're a nerd like myself. So this entire trip, the overall average was 315 watt hours per mile, which is 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour. I think that's pretty good given the cold temperatures. It was all pretty much winter weather, not brisk, insane, below freezing winter weather, but it was all averaged out to be around freezing. A little bit warmer at times, but some nighttime, some daytime, some rain, even a little bit of snow. All that considered, that's pretty impressive. And I was not on the Aero wheels. These are, of course, Martian wheels, which clearly don't have much of an effect on range, and snow tires that are also not as optimized as the OEM tire. Still pretty good, though. These are the Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5 EV, which do help with some of that less or roller resistance. But the trip out there from the first episode, 271 watt hours per mile over the course of 635 miles. So that's 172 kilowatt hours used overall. The trip back, 233 kilowatt hours used. So it was basically the exact same distance, but using 60 kilowatt hours more energy because of gaining elevation plus a little bit of headwind. That's really how much of a difference headwind and elevation makes. It wasn't drastic. It was really gradual distance drawn out over the course of 10 hours. And that's kind of how much that plays into it. We as drivers didn't really notice anything, but the car sure did. So the total energy used was 405 kilowatt hours. And if you multiply that by the roughly 38 cents per kilowatt hour for DC fast charging, that's $150-ish for public DC fast charging. That's a decent amount of money for 1,250 or so miles, almost 1,300 miles. For reference, that's the exact same cost as a gas car getting 25 miles per gallon using current gas prices, which are actually pretty impressively low at the moment, about $3 per gallon where we're at. However, that's if you exclusively use DC fast charging, which we all know is expensive. The way they sell these cars as optimal for your daily commuting is with home charging, maybe workplace charging, basically gaining the system with cheaper or free level 2 charging. So that's what I was able to do I only did it on one side, so I spent actually about $120 instead of $150, because that first initial 100% state of charge was using 10 cents per kilowatt hour instead of 38 cents. If you had level 2 charging at both ends of the trip, that would go down even further, bringing it to like $100, which would be closer to like a 40 mile per gallon car. So that's better, but still, DC fast charging in the public, as we all know, is not cheap. And that's with a car that's really pretty efficient. I'm really curious to see how this car does in the summer, so stay tuned. We obviously have a ton of content planned for this car, and summer will be a lot of fun. Doing a summer road trip, that's when we saw more optimal conditions. That's when we saw 386 miles on our highway range test with this car, which was insane, but that was, again, with better temperatures. So I am planning also to do a 0-degree range test to see how horrible the range is on the exact same route as our normal range test with the same car. That'll be super fascinating. But otherwise, the charging stops were totally fine. We had a lot to choose from. We were able to kind of pick and choose, but even the ones we did choose weren't always the best. They didn't always have great amenities. They didn't usually have trash cans or windshield cleaning devices. It's just, you know, Tesla, even though so many people tout it as the best charging infrastructure, there's a lot of them, and that really helps. That's much needed. I mean, pulling up to seeing 4 other cars charging, but the fact that there's 8 or 12 stalls, you don't even think about it. Whereas if you see 4 cars charging at an EA station of 4 chargers, that's a big issue. But Tesla doesn't have that much advantage over some of the other companies in terms of amenities typically. They're typically close to the highway, which is nice. This same route with a bunch of EA chargers are like a few miles off the highway, whereas Tesla is always very, very close. And they typically had decent amenities either at the charger or nearby, keyword nearby, but it's just frustrating to have to stop somewhere not while charging because, you know, I'll always be charging. But what about my other final thoughts? FSD was a breeze. Jess and I really, really enjoyed using it. It just made it really relaxing, honestly, and really, really impressive. Yes, it's not 100% ready. There's a reason it's FSD supervised, and I think it does need to be supervised. But granted, the 1,300 miles or so of this road trip, I had really, other than parking lots, one intervention, and it wasn't a safety critical thing. It was more of a, this person's gonna think I'm a complete horrible person if I don't take over. And it shouldn't have been a scary like situation, not nothing dangerous, but it could have freaked them out just enough to cause something dangerous. So I played it safe. And that's what most people should do. I don't want to see people misusing and gaining this system, even though it's closer than ever to being, I think, yeah, pretty much ready for unsupervised. But there's some things I still hope to be improved. I had it set in the hurry mode pretty much the entire time, which I guess does cause it to do a bit more left lane camping than you would like, so maybe other people would prefer standard mode. But even in hurry mode, when the speed limit was 75, it would still only do typically 5 miles an hour over, maybe 6 or 7 miles an hour over, and the speedometer is a bit conservative, so it's actually pretty much exactly 4 or 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, which at 75 is not very aggressive, and that doesn't seem like hurry to me. But otherwise, the route planner was a little bit conservative, but genuinely pretty good, pretty spot on. And that's it. I'm looking forward to more road trips in the future, more adventures to come, more testing, of course, with FSD now being in its greatest form. And that's one of the most requested videos, is just more FSD stuff. So planning to do a hogback with it very soon in our driver's assistance test and see what else we can come up with. So what else do you guys want to see with this Model 3? We have other channels with other plans for it, and I'm very, very excited. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Jula, once again for the floor mats and the little charging thing that kept our cameras alive on the entire adventure. And we'll see you guys in another road trip very, very soon. Cheers. Why are you auto locking? I am still right here. Load. Can you hear me now? I feel like that cell phone commercial. No, but seriously, you have service. Load.